It's Grace Redman. Thank you for joining me on a solo episode of Real Talk, where I am going to be talking to you about living the elevated life and creating a life and business you're excited to wake up to. Who doesn't want to create a life and business that we're excited to wake up to? Especially the last several years, things have felt so heavy and so chaotic. And what I'm realizing is we need to create the peace amidst the chaos. One of the greatest lessons I learned was the most empowered person in the room is a person that doesn't take anything personal. And I didn't realize that I was conditioned my entire life to take things personal. I internalized everything. And I believe that's what creates so much of the chaos in the world is when we internalize other people's words and actions to mean something about us. And that's where I feel a lot of chaos happens. When we don't know who we are, when we're not grounded in our sense of self, when we're not grounded in a power that's greater than us, we're going to be very easily offended. And when we're easily offended, we give away our power and we are more likely to react as opposed to respond. And what I want to talk to you about today is how being the most empowered person in the room is actually being the most powerful person in the room. There was a scene in a movie, I don't remember what movie it was, and it was a prison movie, and one of the guards went up to one of the inmates and was just calling him all kinds of dirty names to his face, and the inmate just looked at him and didn't respond. And I remember thinking that was so powerful because it takes so much more power to stay grounded, not to react to someone else's bullshit, really, is what it is. And once I learned that the most empowered person in the room is a person who takes nothing personal, I made it my mission to understand why I was taking things so personal. And it took a lot of my energy, a lot of time ruminating. Okay, what did they say? Why did they say that? And then that takes energy away from living the elevated life because then you're ruminating and you're in your negative mindset and you're definitely not focusing on your business or yourself or your relationship because you're stuck in your mind ruminating over why did they say that? What does it mean? They were an asshole. They this. Who gives a shit about what they think? What is it that you think? And oftentimes we take things personal because we actually believe what they're telling us. I wouldn't take it personal if I didn't believe what they were telling me was true. Does that make sense? So when we take something personal, it's because we're making it mean something about us we already fear to be true. Now, I'm just going to be totally transparent. And growing up, my family put me on a diet before the age of 10. Like I was on a diet, I was told I was fat. And so something that I used to take personal was if someone mentioned my weight. And so I remember a time, and I'm not going to say his name on this video, but I remember a time I was probably 15 years old, 15, 16 years old, and we had the garage door open in the neighborhood and all the kids were out. And I remember one of my classmates asked my brother, "Why is your sister so fat?" I was like, oh my God, did he just say that? I was devastated. And I took what he said personal because I already believed I was fat because my family told me I was fat for my whole life. And now when I look at pictures of myself at that age, I feel so sad for that little girl because I was nowhere near fat. It's just society conditions us a certain way. So I was conditioned to believe that I was fat. So if you mention anything about my weight, of course I'm going to take it personal because that's already something I have an insecurity about. So when we start to do the inner work and we really build our sense of self and we step into our worth and we connect to a power that's greater than us and know that we are worthy no matter what, those little comments don't trigger us so much. Now, do we still get triggered? Of course, we're human. In our triggers is information to the gaps in our lives. It's information where we could be better, where we could do better. And I know we talk about our personal life and our professional life. However, I feel that our personal and professional lives are really intertwined and integrated. Because if you're getting triggered on something in your personal life, it's going to trigger you in your professional life. If it's holding you back in your personal life, it's going to hold you back in your professional life. So understanding what triggers us, what we take personal, and stepping back and getting curious and understanding where is that insecurity coming from helps us build that sense of self-confidence, that sense of self, to help us really navigate the challenges that we are going to face in life and business. And again, like there is no separation. When I was having a hard time setting boundaries in my personal life, I had a hard time setting boundaries in business. And that's why when, I work together with my clients, it really meshes the personal and the professional together, because typically what we're struggling with personally, we're struggling with professionally, and that holds us back in our business. And so for me, understanding like, okay, Grace, taking things personal is, I don't want to say a weakness. That I don't want to call it a weakness, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. But I recognize like, okay, taking things personal was taking away too much energy from my business and my personal life. I did not want to spend time ruminating in my head, because that takes a lot of time and energy, and our energy is currency. So where are you spending your time and energy? I definitely didn't want to spend it ruminating over someone's words that really was more of a reflection of them than me. And I always make sure we take we always have to make sure we take accountability for our actions, for our thoughts, for the next step we take. And how that looked, taking accountability for my triggers, is stepping back and getting curious, like, where is this trigger coming from, and making an effort to rewrite that narrative, rewrite that story. So my trigger with the neighbor was coming from, I believed I was fat. And now, if I was in fact overweight and I needed to be more healthy, then I need to take accountability for that. At that point, that wasn't the case. It was just a young boy's perspective, and we all have different perspectives. So really, I've been practicing being the most empowered person in the room for 10 years, and I play it like a game. And that's what I invite you to do. When you get triggered, you take something personal, I invite you to take a deep breath in, because I know sometimes you just want to react and just give those two words back. Sometimes the two words are, fuck you. Sorry. Is it okay if I swear? If not, you can unfollow, not listen. So before you say those two words, take a deep breath, step back, and get curious. What about that comment made me take it personal? What made you take it personal? And think about it. Well, they don't respect me. What makes you believe they don't respect you? Is that true? And who said they need to respect you? What's your perspective of respect? Now, I believe that respect is our right to be treated humanly, to be treated, fairly. But oftentimes we feel we're being disrespected when someone does something that, when we have an expectation, that person doesn't meet that expectation, we believe we're being disrespected. I'll give you an example. My kids do not clean their rooms. They don't listen to me. I walk in there, they're a damn mess. In my perspective, I used to believe they're disrespecting me. And then I would take it personal because I want them to listen to me. And if you don't listen to me, that means you're disrespecting me. It's not that they're disrespecting me. The cleaning of the room is not on the top of their list. What kid cleans their room? So here I am taking it personal when in reality, they're just kids being kids. It has nothing to do with me. It doesn't mean that I'm not a good enough mother. It doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. It's just they're not interested in cleaning their room. Who can relate to that, right? So definitely take that personal. So take a deep breath, step back, get curious. Like, why am I taking this personal? And more often than not, it's going to come down to you believing that you're not good enough, they're not respecting you, you don't feel safe, you don't feel worthy. And so when we really have that unconscious belief that we're not good enough, most things are going to trigger us. We're going to take most things personally. Doesn't mean, again, we don't hold people accountable. Also, we can't control other people. What we can control is ourselves and how we respond. I am also a recovering control freak, but it wasn't because I wanted to control the other person. It was because I wanted to control my environment because it helped me feel safe. And so again, like, our triggers are really information to help us recognize the areas in our lives that we can definitely do some healing, where we could definitely do some reframing of limiting beliefs. And the world being in chaos, I feel like if we did the work, if we looked within ourselves, if we understood our triggers, we'd be better able to understand others and understand where they're coming from. Again, this is not saying let's not hold people accountable. It's not saying that terrible things, don't happen, that there aren't injustices. Yes, all of those things happen. And what's our part? Like, our part is doing the inner work, looking at the areas within us where we could be better, looking at our insecurities, looking at where are we taking things personal, where are we making an effort to control outcomes and circumstances. Everyone has a different map of reality. And if we want someone to bend to our map of reality, guess what? You are going to be in a lot of pain. It's going to be a struggle because you can't control other people to see your perspective. They have a different perspective. Now, should we all be kind? Absolutely. Should we treat each other, with respect? Absolutely. I think I've seen so much disrespect, so much unkindness, so much hate, so much anger. And it makes me sad because really, when I get so angry, I really need to stop and look within myself. And I know this is probably very unpopular opinion. But when we get that angry, take a moment and stop and look within yourself. What's happening? What are you feeling? What's going on? What are you making it mean? Are you trying to control a situation that is out of your control? it's seems so complicated, yet it's so simple. And I started all of this with the most empowered person in the room is a person who doesn't take anything personal. And I'm that is really one of the most powerful, if there's anything that you take away from this is the most empowered person in the room. The person who takes nothing personal is the most empowered, powerful person in the room. They really are. Because the person that takes everything personal is easily manipulated. And they are constantly in a state of fight or flight. They're ruminating, they're unproductive, they're focusing all of their time outside of themselves, not within themselves. And one of the greatest principles of living the elevated life is learning how to regulate your emotions. High performers know how to regulate their emotions. They know how to regulate their nervous system. And when we continue to blame everything outside of us for what's happening to us, we're giving away our power. We're in an unregulated nervous system. And we're disconnected from a power that's greater than us. And when we're connected, and when we know how to manage our thoughts, manage our emotions, we become very powerful. And that's how change starts to happen. When we look at ourselves and start really taking accountability for the areas in our lives, personally and professionally, where we feel we need to control, where those areas that fire us up the most, those are the areas that we really need to work on. And so I challenge you for the next week as you move through your days, personally and professionally, think about this. The most empowered person in the room is a person who takes nothing personal. And as you move through your days and you are taking things personal, step back, get curious, and ask yourself, what about this is making me take it personal? What am I making this mean about myself? And I'd love to hear. Write it down in the comments, share in the comments, or reach out to me. I'd love to hear what comes up for you, because for us to live the elevated life and create lives and businesses we're excited to wake up to, the work starts with us. And in living the elevated life, we become that ripple in humanity that will help us create a better society, better communities, a better world. It doesn't start outside of us, it starts within us. I love you. Thank you for listening and watching. Would love to hear your comments, and I will see you next time. Again, like, love, subscribe, follow, and I'll see you next time. Take care.